Hi everybody, this is a video on systems of inequalities. In this video we are going to write inequalities from graphs, and we'll be writing systems of inequalities from graphs, which means we'll be writing at least two of them. Okay, so when you have a system of inequalities on a graph, you're going to have a couple of different areas. You're going to have an unshaded area, and that unshaded area is going to have all of the points that are not a solution to any of the inequalities. You're going to have a double shaded, or a region where everything is shaded, and these points are going to solve both or all inequalities. These are going to be the solutions that we're looking for. On either side of the graph, usually, there will be two regions that are part shaded. Here we have a blue one and a green one. These part shaded ones will solve one of the inequalities, but not both of the inequalities. And solving one of the inequalities is not enough. We need to solve all inequalities of the system and make all statements true. So these part shaded regions will not count. We'll also have a boundary area, usually someplace where the lines cross. So in this case, that's right here. If you have a point on a line, it must solve all of the inequalities. This one won't work because of the dotted line. So if there is a dotted line present anywhere on that intersection, that does not count. Okay, so we want to write the system of inequalities. We're going to do this the exact same way that we wrote one inequality. We're just going to do it with two. So for this first solid line here, I'll call it line A. We see that it has a slope of down 1 over 2 and a y-intercept of 4. So we start off by writing that equation. Now we think about, where does this shading exist from that line? It is below the line, so we're going to change that into y is less than negative 1/2 x plus 4. And then I see that it's a solid line, so I'm going to add my or equal to. So my final answer for this is going to be, for my first inequality, y is less than or equal to negative 1/2 x plus 4. I'm going to call this dashed one line B. I can see that line B has a slope of up 3 over 1 and a y-intercept of negative 3. So I'm going to start by writing that as y equals 3x minus 3. I can see that my shading is above the line, so I'm going to change that to y is greater than 3x minus 3. And since that's a dashed line, I'm going to finish there. I would then want to test a point, since 0, 0 is in my double shaded region, or this overlapping area. We're going to test that, make sure it works for both of them. So for A, we would get 0 is less than or equal to 0 plus 4 when I plug in the point 0, 0. And that's true. And for B, I'm going to get 0 is greater than 0 minus 3. 0 is greater than negative 3. Those are both true, so 0, 0 should be a solution to my inequality. Okay, here's a system of 3 for us to try. We have a solid vertical line right here. We have a dashed horizontal line right here, and we have another dashed line right here. So I'm going to label those as A, B, and C. A is going to be x equals negative 10. Now, normally I would look to see if my shading was above this line, or below this line. However, I'm talking about the x variable. So, all of this shading, are those places where x is greater than negative 10 or where x is less than negative 10? Well, the answer is x is greater than negative 10. And since that's a solid line, I'm going to write it as x is greater than or equal to negative 10. That's one of the trickiest parts about this. Using the same sort of process for line B, I would first say y equals 2, and I would change my answer to y is, my shading is lower, so less than 2. For line C, I would find a slope of 1, up 1 over 1, and a y-intercept of negative 6. So if I were to write that as a line, I would have y equals x minus 6. My shading is above, and I have a dashed line, so I'm going to have y is greater than x minus 6. So my final answer for this is all three of these put together. A system of x is greater than or equal to negative 10, y is less than 2, and y is greater than x minus 6. So as a bit of an exercise, I'd like for you to pause the video now and try and answer the next two multiple choice questions. Here's the first one. Try and answer this, pause the video, and I'll put the answers up in just a second. Okay, the correct answer to this one is C. I used the test point of 3, negative 3. Here's another one. Pause the video and try and answer it. Okay, the correct answer here is B. If you get a question like this, pay attention to solid versus dotted, and then use a test point that's relatively easy for you to plug in. I picked negative 10, negative 10, which would be down here, because I thought that would be really easy to plug in. I like the number negative 10. Okay, hope that helped.